Welcome to the DEbrief. My name is Mariah Fletcher and I'm your host, where the DE brings the news to your ears. Our first reporter is Kristen Boichers, who wrote a story about lineman workers. Linemen are a tradesman that repairs and constructs power lines and related structures. You interviewed Dale Guetersloh, who said the job is a family tradition. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I talked to Dale last October of 2025, and he was just kind of a down-to-earth guy, and he told me all about his experiences in the trade, from being a kid when his dad was a lineman to now being 60 years old and getting ready to retire soon. So yeah, he told me all, and he told me the good parts, the bad parts, and he said it's a job that you just got to get up and go, no matter when it's nighttime, daytime, no matter if the weather is nice outside, cold outside, even when you'd rather stay inside, and the wind's howling outside, you got to go. And
so how has climate change and severe weather affected their jobs?
So climate change has brought and probably an unprecedented amount of severe weather to, not just southern Illinois, but all over. There's more severe storms than there used to be. There's a higher prevalence of severe thunderstorms, tornadoes,
right?
Hotter weather, colder weather, just everything in between. So you've got high winds; those are going to damage your lines, and put them at a risk too when they're up in the bucket truck. It affects pretty much every part of their job, I'd say.
So, Kristen, how dangerous is this job, would you say?
From what I have learned through the guys I spoke with, it is life or death. I think when I was talking to Dale, he said that it's not like other jobs. You can't just make a little mistake and go put a Band-Aid on it and fix it. You have to, use every precaution that you can, and it can result in, loss of life. And it is it's a life or death job, and
right.
They're out there to put people's power back on and keep their lights going, keep their heat going.
So what is LBAT training?
So LBAT is the American Line Builders Apprenticeship Training. It is in Medway, Ohio, and that is where people will go to lineman school. They'll learn climbing, they'll learn the basics of electrical theory, and they will, once they graduate from there with their climbing certificate, they'll go probably to work for a lineman job. You could work for Ameren, you could work for a local co-op, you could work for farther out is like Duke Energy. Once you graduate from lineman school, you'll be working as an apprentice and you'll be learning on the job. So that's where you learn all your basics.
Awesome. So Stanley Tree, a colleague of Guetersloh, was part of the team to help rebuild the power lines after Hurricane Katrina. What was his experience in helping rebuild the city?
Yeah, so I think he was out in the more rural area of Louisiana.
Right.
And he said he ran into some guys on four-wheelers who kind of said, that they were gonna eat at their house, otherwise, it wasn't gonna be good. They wanted to have to treat them, and he said everyone was very, very thankful. He said it was pretty bad down there from all the wind damage and everything. But everyone he said that they ran into, they were all very thankful, and they had someone from Louisiana who lived down where they were working cooked them up a big dinner with everything, with all the Cajun stuff and everything. So yeah.
If you want to know more about Guetersloh and his story, check it out in the link in the description. The next reporter is Orion Wolf, who wrote a story about the closure of Fazoli's and Freddy's that both closed in the same week here in Carbondale. Fat Brands, the parent company of Fazoli's and M&M Custard, a franchise of Freddy's, both filed for bankruptcy. Orion, thank you for coming on.
It's my honor.
Yes, and tell me a little bit about what's going on. Tell me about your story.
So I guess I heard a bit 2.5 weeks ago that the Freddys and the Fazolis both like closed super randomly. Like there was one day there were like customers coming in, they were getting dinner, lunch, whatever, and then the next day all of the signage was torn off. There were like dumpsters in front of the like stores and stuff, and it was really, really weird. So I decided to look into that, and I guess it was a bankruptcy issue.
So you talked to an employee from each business and a manager at Fazoli's. What were their thoughts on the closure?
So I don't think a lot of them were really surprised, especially like Fazoli's. The employee I spoke to wasn't super shocked that they were closing, but at the same time, like really any there wasn't any notification given. Like, yeah, they were slow, but like that doesn't mean that the store is going to close tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the manager, I spoke with the assistant manager, and she said that she didn't know until the catering orders were shut off the night before. She wasn't even told by like corporate or whatever. And when the catering orders were shut off, and then they realized that they were getting shut down. Like that was their last thing that they got, and they weren't told until like 8 hours later in the morning.
Wow. So did the brands close a lot of the locations or just the few that included Carbondale?
So Carbondale was one of the locations that was the lowest profiting.
Right.
At both of the companies, I believe.
Okay.
I need to be fact checked. But so the reason that they were closed was because they were the lowest profiting. I think for Fazoli's, it was one store in Carbondale and then one in Indiana.
Okay.
So it was more based on like the profits that came in than, yeah.
Right. Okay, so based on your interviews and some of the research that you had to do while writing this article, do you think that there is a job market problem here in Carbondale?
I think that the amount of people who live in Carbondale and who call this place home, I think just like the variety of different schedules and different like students, like residents, people like the assistant manager at Fazoli's who doesn't really have reliable transportation. And I think public transportation in Carbondale is personally, in my personal opinion, better than a lot of other places.
For sure.
I think just like trying to find a job during the school season might be more difficult than finding a job over the summer. But then over the summer, you have all the other things that come with that. You have places closing because they're not getting service, stuff like that. So it's kind of difficult, I think, in any situation. Timing, pay, transportation. I think it's just a very difficult situation to manage.
Of course, and since this is a college town, I mean, if Fazoli's can't just stay open during school season, and they can't close for semester breaks and spring breaks and winter breaks and so on and so forth. So I would imagine that it'd be difficult to keep full-time workers all year round. Thank you so much for being on the episode, Orion. If you want to know more about the Fazoli's closure, you can check out the link in the description. Our next guest speaker this week is our very own sports reporter, Eli Hoover, who is here to talk about March Madness, coaches, and what to look forward to next year. Thank you for coming on, Eli.
Appreciate having me, Mariah. Thank you.
Of course. So what is March Madness?
So March Madness in its current form refers to the men's and women's college basketball tournament, Division I college basketball tournaments.
Right.
It's 68 teams on the men's side and 64 on the women's side. But actually, to get to the bottom of what March Madness is, we have to go all the way back to 1939.
Okay.
Right here in Illinois.
Wow.
Because originally...
Our very own.
Originally, it referred to the Illinois High School boys basketball tournament. There's a man, H.V. Porter, who is a pioneer of basketball here in Illinois and around the country. I suggest looking him up to our listeners. H.V. Porter again. But in 1939, he wrote a poem actually about the Illinois high school boys basketball tournament. And in it, he calls it March Madness. And then 2 years later, he does it again in a different poem. And so then we have to fast forward to 1982. In between then, the Illinois High School Sports Association starts using it in advertising and things like that.
Right.
In 1982, a man named Brent Musburger uses it to talk about the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
And then from there, there's actually a lot of contention over who got to use the phrase.
Okay.
Because the NCAA is like, well, we want to use it, and IHSA was like, it was ours first.
Yeah.
Basically, there was kind of argument over. It's really similar to the Burger King argument. If you've heard of that, it was a similar thing.
What's the Burger King argument?
So the Burger King started in Mattoon, Illinois. The national chain happened, kind of the same thing. They kind of took over the trademark.
Okay.
But so then, sometime in the 1990s, the IHSA kind of realized that they were going to lose the battle. They went, you know what? We'll share the trademark, and then we can both use it. And so now the rule is IHSA gets to use it for high school basketball. The NCAA gets to use it for college basketball. And finally, in 2010, IHSA gave the trademark to the NCAA. And so now the NCAA has the sole trademark on the term March Madness, but they still let the IHSA use the term for high school sports.
Okay. Wow. I would have had no clue. So did you make your bracket? I know you made some newsroom people made theirs yesterday.
Yeah, so I always do, because I'm a college basketball nerd, I do 3 different brackets.
Okay. How do you think they went?
Well, 2 of them already have losses, because as we record this,
Right.
2 different games have already gone to final.
Okay.
TCU has already beaten Ohio State in an 8-9 game. An 8-9, so when I say those numbers, that's referring to their seed.
Got
so
it.
1 is the best teams, and 6 teams are considered the worst teams usually. Those are really small schools.
Yeah.
There's 4 of each seed. And so 8-9 games are usually toss-ups. But the 9 seed TCU won by 2 this morning, and then Nebraska won as a 4 seed against 13 seeded Troy. It was actually their first NCAA tournament win in school history. They're the last power conference school to get an NCAA tournament win.
I think that was my winner. It's Nebraska.
Shout out. I believe you were actually, if I remember correctly, and the brackets are in the other room, unfortunately. Your guys' paper ones are. But I believe you and at least 2 other people in the newsroom had St. Louis University winning. I know there were multiple people
And
that
what
did.
about it?
Hey, we'll see. SLU doesn't play until... Oh, SLU plays tonight at 8:45 as we're recording this
Have to
on
tune in.
Thursday the 19th.
Yes. What mashups are you excited to see?
So I'm very excited because I don't watch a whole lot of the big schools, like the
Right.
Illinois or Mizzou's. I don't watch a whole lot of them.
Okay.
I watch a lot more SIU-sized schools just because
Yeah.
that's always interested me more for whatever reason. Same reason I like college basketball more, like pro basketball. So I was talking earlier about the seats and how like the lower the number, normally kind of the worse in air quotes the
Right.
team is.
Right.
But so how it normally shakes out is from 12 seed on down to the 412s and each all the way down to 16s, those normally come from one bid conferences.
Okay.
So there are 31 conferences in NCAA Division I, and each conference gets at least one team. Got it. They all decide which team goes by a tournament, like Arch Madness in St. Louis. I know Taylor was on here a couple weeks ago to talk about that. So all of those smaller conferences, they get the lower seeds, so the 12 through the 16. So I was really like watching those games to see which teams can upset the bigger schools.
Right.
Upset refers to a win that you're not necessarily expecting. So I always watch those games. I'm really excited about those. As we're talking right now, actually, Siena, a 16 seed, is up 11 on favorite to win the entire tournament, Duke. There's still plenty of time left. There's 7 minutes left in the first half, but Siena's starting strong. So like games like that, I always really enjoy watching because 95% of the audience has never heard of these guys. Meanwhile, I'm watching those games like, yeah, come on, this guard I've been watching since November that nobody else knows they exist.
Right. So for SIU coaches, what is next year looking like?
So that's kind of become more curious question in recent years, because with the transfer portal becoming bigger and bigger of a thing, you basically have to start over every year.
Right.
You know, it used to be, you know, this guy comes in as a freshman, unless they get hurt or unless something crazy happens, they're staying here until they're a senior.
Yeah.
You know, that's what, you know, Brian Mullins did back in the day. That's, you know, you were getting out of Jamal Tatum. But now, pretty much every year, at the end of the year, these players go, okay, do I want to stay here? These coaches go, okay, do I want to keep these players here?
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to take a quick detour on. So many people assume that's the players. They're going, you know what, I want to leave. And in a lot of cases, that's the truth. But there are also, each team sits down in meetings with each player, and some of them end up in, hey, I got to be honest with you, player A, you know, if we're sitting down with coach and your player, some people are going, hey, Mariah, I got to be really honest with you. You can stay here as a student if you want, but you're probably not going to have a spot on the basketball program.
Okay.
So then that player is like, well, I guess I have to leave because I still want to play basketball.
Right.
And so that's also a part of it as well. And so a lot of those meetings were happening this week for SIU because they would have happened last week after the conference tournament, but SIU was on spring break. And so now those conversations all happened this week. And as we're recording this, 3 players have already said they're coming back. Luke Walsh and Daniel Poliakonis, who both redshirted their freshman years. Okay. And senior Caden Hawkins, who, for our older listeners that might recognize that last name, that is Shane Hawkins' son, SIU basketball legend and current head coach at Carterville High School. So those are the 3 players that we know for sure are coming back for next year. But now the biggest thing is trying to figure out who else is coming back and trying to figure out what holes you need to fill on your roster with transfers from other places.
Right. Okay. So any games that we're looking forward to, hint, hint, SIU versus U of I?
So not to call her out like this, but I have beef with producer Peyton Cook put that script together. I have a little bit of beef with her because if she's talking about a future SIU U of I matchup, she's not talking about basketball.
What are we talking about then?
That there is a SIU versus U of I football matchup that's happening next year.
Are you excited about it?
I am very excited about it, but it also gives me a chance to talk about something that grinds my gears quite a bit. So the reason I was so confident that SIU U of I is not a matchup that's going to happen next year is because there's kind of a big thing that's happening in college basketball right now. It's happening in college football too, to an extent. But especially with in-state schools, bigger schools don't play smaller schools. Yeah. At least kind of in the section of the game that SIU is in. Okay. Because the Missouri Valley Conference as a whole is in a really weird place where they're not to the level of the power conferences 95% of the time, but they're also way better than a lot of these smaller conferences that you'll see that they're on a RAM Tuesday afternoon. So they're in that weird middle ground where teams don't really gain anything from beating them, but they could lose to them, right? So it's like, okay, either you beat them and congratulations, you beat a Missouri Valley school, or you lose to them like, you lost to Missouri Valley school. but that risk of losing is a lot bigger than if you play a super small, like a Division II or a really small Division I team. Yeah. So the Illinois aren't playing the Illinois States, the Bradleys, the SIUs. It's even getting to the point where higher mid-majors aren't scheduled. Like SLU has St. Louis University has kind of come under fire because they haven't scheduled SIU since SIU beat them by 42 years ago.
I remember that.
So there's a big scheduling issue, and it kind of came to a head in talking about the NCAA tournament this year because Miami of Ohio went 31-0 in the regular season. Wow. Sounds impressive, right?
Kind of.
You win every game, you would think that would mean, okay, no matter what happens in your conference tournament, you'd get in. You would think so, right? But a lot of people on social media, a lot of national talking heads were getting really upset because Miami of Ohio didn't play anybody.
They just played smaller schools.
But the thing is, for Miami of Ohio, they're in the MAC, which is in a similar conference profile to Missouri Valley Conference. It's the Mid-America Conference. They're in, Miami of Ohio's in Ohio. They have Ohio University. This is the last year of Northern Illinois being. So it's a very similar makeup to the Missouri Valley. So they're in kind of the same pickle that SIU is in. So Matt Brown of Extra Points did a really great job. He issued a Freedom of Information Act request
Yes.
on Miami of Ohio Athletic Department's emails to
Wow.
look at how many schools turned them down. And he found at least 20 instances
Yeah.
of Power 4 schools either outright rejecting a game with Miami of Ohio or just not answering their athletic director at all. And the athletic director says there are at least 50 more instances of that from this year's schedule alone. So Miami of Ohio is in that tough spot of, we tried to play people, but nobody wanted to play us. And so how are we going to get punished for that when we're trying our best?
Right.
And there's no real reason for the bigger schools to play these middle of the pack schools. Either play fellow power conference schools that you're not going to get punished for losing to, or play bottom of the barrel schools that you can beat the crap out of.
Right. So if we were to see SIU versus U of I in football, how do you think that game is going to look? Do you I'm always for a Southern win, but I have to be realistic sometimes. So what are your thoughts? You're the expert here.
I don't have the numbers in front of me,
Right.
and I wish I had looked at them before we came on.
It's okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, there are 7 FCS over FBS wins in SIU's history.
Okay.
And Nick Hill is part of 4 of them, the current head coach.
Right.
He had 2 of them as a player, and he had 2 of them here as a coach. And actually, as we're recording this, he just got extended.
Yeah.
4-year contract extension, broken by Tim Leonard on the inside Slugi Athletics. And then shortly after, we were able to put something out